Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel many times before. Now, these guys are still a relatively new addition to the Scottish beer scene, but despite their short lifetime so far, they've built up a very, very good reputation for themselves. And if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're probably best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. But in recent times, they have been diversifying a wee bit and doing different styles like Imperial stouts, other kinds of IPAs, and a few kind of lagers and sour beers as well, which has been really interesting to see. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I've tried from them once before. The last example of that style that I had from them was really, really quite nice, and this one is a little bit different from that last one, I would say. So I have to say, I'm really quite curious to see how this one turns out. So hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head over to Glasgow once again. We're going to go to Yoker, to be precise, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Overtone Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Forbidden Fruits. It comes in at 10% ABV, and this one is an Imperial Smoothie Sour. So this one they are describing as a smoothie sour with marshmallow, and the fruits that have been used in this are blueberries, mangoes and strawberries. So yeah, this should be really quite interesting. This will be more of a red sour than the last one we tried from them, but the last one we had, I forget the name of it now, but it was a really nice kind of tropical yellow sour, and that was absolutely great. So yeah, really curious to see what a more kind of red type sour from these guys is going to be like. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we get on. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Overtone Brewing Company before, and there will no doubt be more added to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there if you want to see more reviews. Do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. You'll find this one in there, and you can of course check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you once again about Overtone Brewing. So as I've mentioned to you already, Overtone Brewing are based in Glasgow on the Scottish West Coast, if we can say that about Glasgow. I think we can. But the company was founded back in 2017 by Bo Wang, who is originally from Beijing in China. So he'd been a home brewer for a number of years before he founded the brewery, and it was really the feedback that he got on his beers that pushed him to actually start his own company. But the name Overtone is taken from Bo Wei's love of techno music, and this is also the reasoning behind the kind of circular things, or roundels, if you can call them that you'll find on pretty much all of the Overtone Brewing beers. They're supposed to be like, you know, the kind of things you'll see at techno raves and all of this kind of thing. But Bo Wei in the early days hired Dan Miller, who's from New Hampshire in New England in the northeast of the US, to come in as his head brewer, and he previously worked as a head chef but also as a brewer in England, New York and also in Scotland for 6 Degrees North, who brew in Lawrencekirk, mainly Belgian styles of beer, but they have been doing some more different things recently too. But also involved at the brewery is Martin Connaughton, who worked in the craft beer scene down in New Zealand for a number of years. He sometimes takes part in the brewing but is mainly working on other things these days, and they've also got Charlie Irving involved in the brewing team as well now, and he comes from a background of home brewing and previously worked for another local Glasgow brewery as well. But the brewery itself can be found in the New Albion Industrial Estate in Yoker near Renfrew and Clydebank, and they began their operations there back in 2018, and it was that year that they released their first beers. But the brewery don't have a fixed range, they're always brewing different beers, but they are the first brewery in Scotland who really focused on the New England hazy IPAs and made this their core style. But over the years they've continued to expand the brewery infrastructure, And as of August 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 175 different beers according to Untappd. Like I said to you, these guys do pretty much, you know, what is it, about 80% New England IPAs, and then you'll get other styles in there as well. They've been doing a few different lagers recently. They've also been doing different kinds of IPAs, so a few West Coast IPAs, you'll see those every so often, big fruity sours like this, and also quite a few Imperial stouts and a few kind of regular sweet stouts and things like that as well. But yeah, very, very good brewery, very highly regarded these days, and potentially one of the best known Scottish craft breweries as well. They really started to get a lot of attention when their beers went away down to England. But yeah, that's everything, like I say, I can tell you about these guys for the moment. So if you want to learn more about them, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go down there and have a wee look at this beer and see what it has. So I'll just have a wee look at the artwork on this one to see what it's all about. You can see it is quite similar to what we've seen from Overtone before, but a little bit more kind of psychedelic, if we can call it that. Would you consider that as psychedelic? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the most artistically literate person, more musically literate I would say. But you can see plain silver top on the can there. It's a 440 as you often get. And I think this one cost me in the region of like £7.50 or something like that. But yeah, this was by Ellie's Cellar along in Dollar, who always get a good supply of, they always get a really good supply of Overtone stuff. But I'll tell you something, you can feel the density of this beer in the can as you move it around. So the one thing it does tell you here is to turn it sharply a few times before you actually taste it. So yeah, it does say 30 minutes before, but yeah, that's that. But yeah, like I said to you, 10% Imperial Smoothie sour, this one. Blueberries, mango, strawberries, and then also some marshmallows added into it. This should be quite nice. So yeah, this one is Overtone Forbidden Fruits at 10% ABV. Let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. I will also say the can was pretty damn full, and I'm just going to get rid of the brewery notes then for this one. So let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. But you can see straight away this one is pretty much as thick as the last one we had in this style category from these guys. I think that'll do for the moment for us to have a wee look at the beer, and we'll put the rest of it in just before we actually drink the thing. But anyway, before the head disappears on the beer then, you can see that it poured with about a quarter to a 1/3 finger of a frothy, kind of foamy pink head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, but yeah, you can see the bubbles are a little bit bigger on the surface of the liquid, but they get foamier the higher up you go. But you can see the colour of this beer is absolutely beautiful. I don't even know how you would describe the colour of this beer. Would it be like mauve or something daft like that? It's almost the same colour as my dad's chair behind me, but yeah, I really have no idea how you would describe the colour of this beer. I think to you guys on the camera it's looking kind of slightly orange, like a burnt orange or something like that, but to me it looks a bit more like a kind of, I really want to say mauve. I'm not the biggest, I'm not, as I say, not the most artistic person, so not the best at describing colours, but yeah, it's this really like almost faded maroon, something like that. It really is very much like that, but yeah, it looks pretty good. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a dark coloured beer. But any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour too. And when it comes to these kind of modern sour beers, that's going to be the biggest factor with these ones. So you know, the use of the blueberries and potentially the strawberries as well. I think it's going to be mainly the blueberries that give you the kind of mauve or whatever the hell colour it is in this one. But I forgot to say, I think I forgot to say that when I was holding the can. You can just feel how dense this beer was, and you can feel it in the glass as well actually. But yeah, it does look really nice. You can see that the thing is pretty much hazy as hell That's a haze for days, this one. You can see pretty much opaque as you like. But yeah, the appearance of this one, considering what we've seen from Overtone in this style category before, not overly surprising, not much in the way of visible carbonation, and certainly not surprising when you consider what style of beer this one is. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the appearance. I really don't think we need to say much more. So let's have a little look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. I think this will be really nice. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to say straight away, this is very, very nice. So aroma wise, this beer, yeah. What you often get, as I've said many a time with these kind of smoothie sour beers, what you often get with these beers is that they're remarkably straightforward in terms of their aroma and their flavour profile. But if they're done right and they're done well, they're just beautiful things to drink, and I think this is going to be like that. The aroma of this one, the first thing that comes to mind as soon as I smell this, is that it's very, very like the kind of strawberry, or was it raspberry? It's very much like the strawberry and raspberry Munch Bunch yogurts that my mum used to put in my lunchbox when I was a wee boy. That is what this thing reminds me of. Really, it's like a big hit of nostalgia. I use that descriptor fairly often, but this one in particular is really close to that. So yeah, aroma-wise, this is right up my street. I love it. But you can smell this one has a little bit more of a kind of pastry sour element to it, I think because of the presence of the marshmallows. This beer, of course, I don't think it contains hops either. No, it just tells you here. I'm surprised it doesn't have oats in it, but it says it's mainly wheat. It says it's barley and wheat that have been used in this one. So that's kind of surprising, because usually smoothie sours have a bit of oat and quite a little bit of lactose in them. But yeah, it doesn't have lactose listed on the ingredients here. I'm kind of surprised about that, especially when I think about the other one that we tried from Overtone in this category too. But yeah, this one, it really is very yogurty. You get the sweetness of the marshmallows underneath, and you've got a lovely kind of juicy, fruity character just popping its way out of this one. So yeah, this is lovely. Let's just try and break this beer down a little bit though and describe how it actually smells. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, you have a lovely, lovely, just kind of, how do we even say that? You've got this just lovely kind of, it's like a slightly toasty marshmallow that forms the back of this one. So it's like a toasty marshmallow, slightly bread crusty type character. There's a wee bit of wholemeal, brown bread and white bread in there, and then yeah, the way that goes together is really nice. So yeah, yeah, toasty bread crust, wholemeal brown bread, little bit of as I say, little bit of above that you're just getting all the sweetness, like it's yogurt, it's like petit filou. Yeah, it's like, yeah, petit filou, Munch Bunch yogurt, and then the marshmallow. You get this really candied note from the marshmallow in this one. There is a little bit of like a Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing to this one, but it really is like, you know, it's like strawberry Nesquik, and it's like that. This is a lot sweeter than the last one we had, the last smoothie sour we had from Overtone. So yeah, it's almost like powdery. It's almost like got the same the sweetness you get from the strawberry in this one's almost, it almost has that like milkshakey potency to it. It's really interesting in that from that perspective. Yeah, I don't know if there's much else we need to kind of say about the malty backbone of this beer. Now, yeah, with this one, in terms of the kind of green component of the beer, obviously with smoothie sours it's very rare that you would actually use hops in these beers, and with sour beers there's a bit of a kind of catch-22 situation with these. If you use hops in sour beers, they can take away from the actual bitterness, or they can take away from the actual sourness of the beer, and likewise if you use fruit as an adjunct in beers, the fruit is always going to suppress a little bit of the hoppy character. So there surfaces this debate about whether you should actually use them in the first place. Some breweries will, some breweries won't. What they used to do back in the old days with the lambics and the Flanders Reds and things was use old hops that had lost some of their alpha acid potency. So it's always very interesting to ask sour breweries, simply put, what their mentality is with hopping. So yeah, this is always a really interesting thing. But this beer, definitely you can smell it doesn't have hops in it, but at the same time it means that it doesn't stop you getting some of these kind of placebo effects from the hoppy character. So yeah, the way that this one comes together is quite nice. You've got a little bit of floral note in there, you've got some nice grassy notes as well, and yeah, a little bit of floral character, a little bit of grassiness, and yeah, the way that all goes together is just quite nice. You just get this little bit of woody bit from the blueberries, I think, as well, and yeah, the way that goes together is absolutely lovely. Now, what I would say about this one, on the fruity side of things, for me, the strawberries are the most potent thing in this. I think potentially it's because the strawberries and the marshmallows are the things that are kind of mixing together the most. I don't know, the two of them, the strawberry and the marshmallow, seem to be the things that are just jumping out of the glass the most at me. You can smell a little bit of the blueberry tartness in there and a wee bit of the mango, but the mango I would say is the hardest one to detect. So for me it's all about the kind of yogurty notes in there. It's also about the kind of just the juiciness of the strawberry, the kind of yogurt, but then a little bit of blueberry on top, a little bit of mango underneath. But yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that particular regard is really quite interesting. So yeah, I like the way that all of that just pieces together. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that with this one. I do really like how that pieces together. As I always say, take a bit of time to, you know, think, just to ponder over the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But I think it probably is about time that we have a taste of this and see what it's all about. So yeah, let's just put the rest of it out and into the can, or into the glass I should say. This is how tired I am when I'm filming these reviews. We'll put it out into the glass and see what we have. But yeah, this one is the Forbidden Fruits from Overtone Brewing, a 10% Imperial Smoothie Sour with marshmallows, blueberries, mangoes and strawberries. Let's get stuck into this and see what it's all about. Really curious. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh. Now that's interesting. The sourness in this is a wee bit different. It's like a kind of darker sourness almost. And this one kind of strikes me, obviously with the presence of the marshmallows, it's a lot more, it just feels as if it's a little bit more toasty. Like you can kind of feel that the marshmallows that have been used in this, obviously if they've been added into the, I'm guessing they will have been added into the kind of whirlpool during the boil part of the beer, you can really feel that they have caramelised. You just get this kind of burnt brown sugary quality in the backbone here, and that just gives the beer this kind of toasty and slightly darker sourness almost. Yeah. So yeah, when you take this beer in, this is, you know, I have to admit, this really isn't what I was expecting from this one. I was expecting something like really bright and sweet and creamy. This one, it is sweet and creamy in the aftertaste, but it's the impact flavour that's catching me a little bit off guard with this one. This is really unusual. I did not expect this from this from this beer. I need to save a little bit of this. My dad will be sleeping just now, but I'm going to save some of this for my dad and let him have a wee taste of it, put it in a glass and cover it up. Because I think this is something he would really like. But yeah, this is the impact flavour on this one. You get this kind of dark sourness out of it. It's got a little bit of a kind of creamy character in there. And yeah, the way that it goes together, I think in that regard is really nice. So yeah, I think this one, as I say, I was not quite expecting what this beer's given me, but it's still pretty damn nice. Just will take a wee bit of time to kind of get used to that. But let's do as we always do and just break the beer down and describe the flavour a wee bit more in depth as we always do. So, middle third of your palate then. The backbone of the beer, you have this, you have this kind of, the actual backbone of the beer, you have this kind of slightly toasty, almost like dry, glazed, brown sugary kind of thing. For me, that's the base of this beer. On top of that, you do get a little bit of a more kind of grainy, bread crusty sort of thing coming out of it, which again I really didn't expect from this beer. But yeah, you get that grainy, bread crusty kind of character, and then above that you get a wee bit of like a sweet brown bread, and then you get this really dense kind of creamy, lactosey, yogurty type thing out of this one. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really nice. So yeah, I do like that. I really do like that with this one. Yeah. On top of that kind of sweet brown bread, like I say, you get that kind of creamy, yogurty type note out of the beer. And the sort of sourness that this beer has, that kind of darker sourness, is really stemming in the kind of yogurty layer that it has. And what you'll find is that the further into the aftertaste you go, it's almost like a kind of dark cherry or something like that. It's like a kind of almost like artificial cherry type flavour mixed in with the yogurt. That's really what it reminds me of. And then above that, you start to get, above the kind of the more sour yogurt, you know, you start to get like a brighter yogurt, and it's like a really kind of sweet, almost like vanilla yogurty flavour that comes out of it. And above all of that, you get a little touch of like a kind of brown sugary layer. Yeah, I do wonder if this beer maybe just needs a little bit of oats just to kind of, just to give it that little bit more of a kind of conventional sweetness, because this is really yogurty. This is potentially the most yogurty kind of smoothie sour that I've come across, actually. That's what the kind of sourness that you get in this one is quite like natural yogurt, or you know, even your Mueller Lights and all this kind of stuff. It's the sourness you get out of this beer really is like that. So yeah, the way the beer goes together in that sense, I think, is really very nice. On the above the kind of yogurty layer in this one, you get that nice kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and I really do like how all of that pieces together. The sweetness that you get in the dead centre of your palate, you do get that little bit of sweetness there, and of course with this beer being 10% ABV, you are going to get some of that, but as you move further out from that, it gives you a little bit of an almost very slightly biscuity quality. But on that middle third of the palate, I think we've covered everything we really need to say. The back third of the palate is, you know, quite similar, except you get a bit more. You do get a bit of a slightly different sour character, and also some graininess and things. So that border region between middle and back third of your palate, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. in the base of the beer, in the base of that border region, there's a wee bit of an almost brown bready character. Then above it you get a sort of mix of white bread and yogurt. But as I've often said, on the back third of your palate you're going to get similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, the backbone of the beer, you've got that really roasty, kind of dry, brown sugary character. You've got a bit of an almost kind of crackery note above it. Then you've got the toasty bread crust. Then a little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bread in there, a little bit lighter and more airy. And then above that, you get that really dense kind of yogurty type thing. You can feel a wee bit of stuff just coming above that. So yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice. Yeah, I do like that in this one. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, above everything else on that back third of the palate, you get a little bit of a kind of yeasty note in there. And yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice. So the yeasty side of this beer, above everything else there, you get that little bit of, it's like a more dense brown bready character. And it's kind of wrapped in, the, how would you say it? It's wrapped in this more, it's like a glazed, like almost icing sugary, like brown, like toffee icing sugar or something like that. That's what it's really like. So the yeasty character, you have that dense brown bread wrapped in that kind of glazed brown sugary kind of thing. That's what I get on the yeasty side of things above everything else on the back third of the palate. But you can definitely feel that the back third of your palate there, the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together. So yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice. So yeah, interesting malty and yeasty side of thing with this beer. I have to say the slightly more kind of candied, like pastry sour nature of this beer means it's not my favourite. I'm not a great fan of pastry sours or pastry stouts. If I'm going to have a smoothie sour, I like them to be a little bit sweeter than this, rather than having the kind of grainier. Yeah, this one's got quite a little bit of grainy dryness to it for me, and that's what puts me off the kind of pastry sour, if you like. So yeah, I have to say the malty backbone of this one is just not. It's not my favourite thing. I don't think this one isn't as much my cup of tea as the last one was. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think this is probably one that I wouldn't revisit, just from that perspective. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things, the green component, if you like I said, this beer does not have hops in it. You do still get a little bit of that kind of green component placebo effect in there. There's a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a herbal character to it, and as you move further forward toward the kind of front corners of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of oily, yeah, you do get a little bit of a kind of oily, kind of floral, grassy sort of thing coming out of this one, and round the front curve of your palate, a little bit of lighter grassiness. But as I say, this is all placebo effect. This isn't actually flavours you're getting from the hops. But yeah, it does have that kind of just oily green component to it, I would say. So, yeah. On the fruity side of things then, let's have a wee look at that front third of your palate. The thing is with this one, as I say, I think what's maybe ruining this beer a little bit for me is the marshmallow. Because the marshmallow, on one hand, it's giving you this kind of toasty, burnt, brown sugary sort of thing, but it's also giving you this kind of really candied flavour. And I think it kind of turns the beer into almost more like a pastry sour than a smoothie sour. So I mean, I potentially would have done this one. I would have replaced. I would say just replace the marshmallows in this one with like a bit of oats or even a bit of oat cream or something like that. That's what I would do with the recipe for this, because everything else about it for me is pretty solid. It's just that kind of dryness and stuff that it has, and the toasty kind of brown sugary sort of thing in the base. That's just for me what kind of puts me off it a little bit. But yeah, front third of the palate then, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. Bit of brown bread in the base, a bit of white bread on the top. Then the base of the front third of your palate is that kind of toasty, brown, sugary sort of thing that I was talking about. I suspect caramelised marshmallows. Above that, a wee bit of a sweet brown bread, and above that, a little bit of sweet white bread. And then on top of everything else, this is when you get the kind of fruity side of the beer. This is when you get the fruit adjuncts just kind of coming in, although you can feel a little bit of the strawberry just going around the edges of your palate there with a little bit of the kind of blueberry sitting on top of it. So yeah, let's look at the actual sour impact of this beer. Yeah, for me, the fruity side of this beer, the mango, as I say, I think the mango really takes a bit of a back seat in this one. And I do wonder if some of the sourness in this beer is coming from the mango, but mango, of course, is a really sweet fruit rather than anything else. So I wonder if it's the kind of combination of like the yogurty flavours, the mango, and a bit of the marshmallow in this one. I could be wrong about the way I'm describing this beer, but you know, every beer is an experience in taste, and you should always be trying to learn things when you try different beers. But yeah, the mango for me takes a bit of time to come out. You get it further into the aftertaste that you go, but sitting on top of that, you've got the juicy strawberry there, and then I think the blueberries just sit on top of that, and the blueberries, I think, are the things that are giving you a little bit of tartness out of the beer. So yeah, it's like the blueberries are at the front of the tongue, the mangoes at the very back, and then the strawberries are kind of in the middle, and it's the strawberries and blueberries that are just giving you a bit of the kind of wetness around the edge of the palate. It's a really interesting flavour combination, this one. But like I say, I think the sort of candy nature of the beer, I've tried a few beers that have been titled candy sours, and I haven't, you know, I wasn't a great fan of those either. I'm not a great fan of pastry sours either. So yeah, this beer, for me, if you took away the marshmallows from this and did it more in the style of the last smoothie sour that I had, which was a straight up, you know, kind of cream, oat cream type thing, that would really be more my kind of cup of tea. This one just has a little bit too much kind of pastry sour element for me, I suspect, from the marshmallows. But yeah, it's an interesting beer, this, and it certainly has tasted my palate, so I have to give Overtone credit for that. But like I say, this one isn't one that I would revisit, and I'm trying to, you know, this is one of the things, I'm always trying to figure out what my limits are with pastry sours and stuff like this, and pastry stouts, because some pastry stouts that I try I really like, others I just don't like. And this one for me, as I say, this sour beer, this is just not my cup of tea with the kind of savoury thing in the malt base. It's just not for me. But still, if you like that sort of thing, you know that this is a very good quality beer. So yeah, interesting stuff. On the mouthfeel side of things then, I would say for me, I would say that it's definitely full-bodied, kind of bottom to mid-range of full-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. It's got this really kind of creamy nature to it. A little bit silky as well, I think you could say. In terms of IBUs, I think it probably has the sourness that you have out of this one potentially gives you a little bit of perceived IBU, but certainly with calculated IBU, it's definitely 0, to be honest with you, because most of that would come from the hops. But yeah, the malt base in this one, it's got a bit of roasty kind of brown sugar underneath, bit of breadiness there, lovely kind of, I do like the kind of yogurty, creamy flavour that this beer has, that you get more of what I would want from this beer into the aftertaste with it. I think it's more the kind of impact flavour of this one that I'm not a great fan of. But yeah, the back third of the palate shows you more of that kind of flavour that I'm not so keen on in this one. But then, yeah, you have got a lovely creaminess and sweetness sitting on top of it, and the fruity side of the beer It's really, yeah, a little bit of sharpness, quite a little bit of juiciness in there. I think all of that goes together really nicely in the beer. So it does. It gets a thumb up from me for kind of effort, if you like, but it doesn't get the kind of big thumbs up in that sense because it's not as good as the other ones that I've tried from Overtone before. And that's just personal preference. If you like pastry sours, this one I'm sure you will enjoy, but as I say, I just don't. I'm not a great fan of these kind of pastry beers in general. But yeah, still a very interesting experience from Overtone Brewing, and it's not going to put me off trying some other sours from them a little bit further down the line. But yeah, I think anything with marshmallow in it, I'm going to think twice about now. I've not had too many sour beers with marshmallow in them, so yeah, I guess I know I don't like that in them now. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. The only other thing to say about the mouthfeel would be that it's not too sharp and sour, this one. It is more of just a kind of yogurty type sourness that you get out of this beer. The big creamy smooth thing as you'd expect with the title Imperial Smoothie Sour. But yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Overtone Brewing Company as well, and we will certainly see about returning to these guys again in the fairly near future. But until then, check out my social media, check out Overtone's social media, and I'll see you guys in the next review. This was Forbidden Fruits, a 10% Imperial Smoothie Sour with blueberries, mangoes and strawberries with marshmallows added into the brew as well, from Overtone Brewing Company in Yoker in Glasgow. Slàinte, skål and cheers.